I think one of the first things that we do with any business that we're working with is have them sit down and think about where they're trying to go with the business. Without doing that, it's easy to get lost in just the day-to-day work that you're doing within the business and actually forget why you're doing what you're doing and what it needs to represent for the business owner, their family, or the team within that business. And it's also something that then allows us to do our job, in helping them shape that and kind of provide a roadmap to helping them achieve it. What would you say is the things that we most commonly find when those businesses go through that process for the first time?
Yeah, I think we usually split that vision piece into two, don't we? That sort of, what's it going to look like? What's the business going to look like? Where's it going to be? Location, size of the team, operations, all these sorts of stuff. And then the other piece, I think, is what's it going to feel like? Or more, what do you want from this business?
Yes, exactly.
And I think that's often a piece that's really missing, because I think really trying to understand what it is you actually want from this business in terms of salary. It can be salary, it can be hours worked, holidays,
what they want to be doing.
What they want to be doing, exactly, their role within that business. And I think that it's some of it's monetary and some of it's not. A lot of it isn't necessarily monetary.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the business owners that we see, they've become accidental managers, and they happen to have grown quite a successful business, partly through desire, but partly through just being really passionate about what they do and just being really good at what they do, and then the business just kind of grows around them. So I think they don't often get that chance to kind of have that objective look and kind of remind themselves about what is this all about.
That's right.
And I think they've maybe spent a bit of time at home with, family and their partners, and kind of there's only so much of that you can keep bouncing off them, but sometimes by having that fresh perspective, it gives them a chance to reset.
Yeah, we often hear a lot about that sort of start-up point, and very interesting, very exciting piece. But most of the clients that we do talk to and we get to this vision piece, as you said, they found themselves with this business. It could be lots of different circumstances. Maybe they've inherited the business, perhaps they have purchased a business, they've started it up, but maybe it's 5 or 6 years down the line, and maybe that's not still the startup phase, as it were. And then suddenly they're in business. They found themselves doing this, and then, as you said, by accident maybe, but there's certainly the circumstance they find themselves in is the accidental piece, if you like. Right. It's suddenly this beast, if you like, that's sort of almost controlling them rather than them controlling the business. And that tends to be the most common piece, is that here I am with this business, and it might be relatively successful, or very successful even, but maybe still haven't had that time to really think about what do I want from this? I'm doing it. And I thought I wanted to do this. That's definitely an important part of that just the wanting to do it. But now I'm doing it. What do I actually want from it?
Yes, exactly.
And I find that one of the most interesting discussions that we have, with the clients about, what do you want from this? Yeah,
for sure. And I think it's a process then that's important to revisit. It's not something that you just, again, you tend to do it at the start of the business when you're first setting it up. People think about what they want to achieve, and then, as I say, we'll maybe, take them through that again a few years down the line. But it's something that I think is important for them to revisit every year.
Yep.
Because if you go out and you hit the goals that you're trying to hit, then your next set of goals will have moved on. Fundamentally, there'll probably be some core things that won't move, and they'll stay the same.
Yep.
But you should be standing back and reassessing that objectively, definitely each year, and kind of getting that chance to rebase and focus again.
It's not vision. It's not written in stone.
No.
It can't be by its nature, because the business is changing, the environment's changing, circumstances are changing, personal circumstances as well as economic and business environment changes. Yep. And you may feel different. Your motivations may change, as your personal circumstances change. Doesn't change the fact that it's still really important to have that vision and to actually define it, because certainly from my position where, I'm much more into financial planning, and that tends to be my role, helping financial planning. If we don't know where we're going, it's almost impossible to plan. If you don't have this, I often think of the vision as this sort of shining light, or the guiding star, if you like. This is where we're going to. and yes, you may change direction somewhere along the line, but you still need to know where you're going. It's not a random wandering off into the business environment. It's there has to be something to plan around.
And I think it makes it easier to then navigate when it does get difficult as well.
That's right.
And those can be difficult times that is coming because of changing markets, and again, businesses are preparing for that, or some things that just get sprung on them. But if they know where they're trying to get back to, it's much easier for them to kind of have a bit of resilience through that difficult phase, and then focus their efforts on getting things back on track.
Yeah, but I think that what and why, if you don't start defining it from the very beginning, and certainly with us in our relationship with clients, we need to know the what and the why. What motivates them and what's the purpose here, because there are so many purposes. But I also think that which you touched on at the beginning there is, the clients has not usually had the space for a long time to actually think about that, to have an environment to actually start talking about that. And sometimes when we start that conversation, it can be quite difficult. People are, well, why are they asking me this? What's this about? We can
and actually, clients can get quite emotional with that.
Yes.
Too. And I think, because it probably again is stuff that they've maybe not tapped into a wee bit, and truly what they want with it, and kind of, or they've realised they've lost sight of things a wee bit. So. But again, that's also part of the reset, and it's okay to kind of go through that process.
And some of those things are maybe difficult to address, family circumstances, what do I want to do? I want to look over, perhaps it's, make sure my elderly parents are safe and secure financially, or that I'm able to look after them in the later parts of their life, or maybe it's to do with children or whatever it may be. And I think, in the everyday life, you're maybe not addressing that, and when you actually have to say it out loud for the first time, and that does bring quite an emotional relief sometimes, but also sometimes it's you've got to suddenly realise, I am responsible for these things, or I want to be responsible for these things. But it's probably my favourite part of the job, is sitting down and working out with our clients what do they want, because I think that's the most sort of satisfying piece. Trainings in finance, yes, I can do the numbers and all that sort of stuff, but giving it purpose, giving it some focus on helping people to achieve what they want from that, I think is a really powerful piece for us.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.